Tui ai runga, tui ai raro. Tui ai waho, tui ai i roto. Ka hari te tangata, wahine rānei. Ko tōna kai āwhina ko te hātua o Hākua. Ko tāna tūmanako atu ai, ko ihoa, ko tōna atua. O tira ko te kaihanga o te rangi, o te whenua, o te moana, me ngā mea katoa o reira, e pupuri ana i te pono, ake, ake. Anō te āhua reka, o te nohonga, o ngā teina, ngā tuakana, i runga i te whakaro kotahi. I'd like to share a verse tonight from Acts 27 and verse 20. For many days they could not see the sun, nor the stars, and the wind kept on blowing very hard. We finally gave up all hope of being saved. Ko tēnei ngā kupu o te atua. So I have adapted my kōrero tonight from this reflection from the World Council of Churches 2020 publication of Resources for the Week of Prayer for Christian Unity. Chapter 27 in the book of Acts tells the story of part of the journey to Rome undertaken by Paul. And on that journey, the ship was caught up in a terrible storm that made the ship's crew fear for their lives. Some looked to Paul to save them, to calm the seas perhaps, as Jesus had done. And that story is recounted in Mark 4:35 to 41. And no, Paul did not command the seas to be calm, as Jesus had done, but he did reassure his fellow seafarers that by the good providence of God, they should be brought safely through, and none of them should be lost. This is a story about faith, as many of the lessons from the Bible are. In the Mark story, Jesus is annoyed with his disciples when they woke him up because they were so afraid of the storm. He, of course, had just had a hard few days, teaching and preaching to the multitudes, and his passage on the water was in some part allowing him an escape from the crowds hungry for his words, his teachings, his wisdom, an escape that would give him space to rest and recuperate. And so it was that Jesus stood up and commanded the seas to be calm, and he challenged his disciples about their lack of faith. The disciples were ashamed at Jesus calling them out. So what can we take from these stories for us today? I guess we cannot ignore the storm that rages around us today, a storm known as COVID-19 and its Delta strain. It has most assuredly created havoc in many countries across the globe, and even unto us here in Aotearoa. As we approach our Hui Tōpu, our conference 2021, I can only look back and be grateful for the foresight of those who set us on a path for online conferencing. It is a new and very different way of being church. But then this pandemic has forced us into new learnings. New skills have had to be learned. Adaptations to our tikanga have taken place, not only in being church, but also in our cultural protocols and obligations. We have been forced to change, to adapt, in order to continue to be God's servants in the world, reaching our people wherever they might be. But what hasn't changed is that at the heart of all these changes, our faith has remained the same. And that faith has brought us all to this space in time and place, with Christ at our head, his light leading the way. Without the light and guidance of Christ, we become disoriented. And when Christians lose sight of Christ, they grow fearful and divided from one another. Others who look in on us will have difficulty seeing the light of Christ, because in our division, we move away from each other and the light is diffused. However, as we are drawn closer to one another, collectively, the light of Christ in the world grows brighter. And so as we move into our Hui Tōpu 2021, let us be mindful of all the difficulties, the storms that we each have had to counter to get to this point. Let us help each other carry out our various roles and responsibilities to each other and to our church. Remember always to love one another, to care for each other, and be the Christ light into the world. Let us pray. God, your word is light to our steps, and without you, we are lost and disoriented. Enlighten us so that through your word, we may walk your path. Give us the honesty to recognize when we make it difficult for others, when we make it difficult for others to see your light, and the grace we need to share your light with others. Psalm 119, 105 says it all. Your word is a lamp to guide me and a light for my path. He rama tau kupu ki oku waiwai, he marama ki tōku ara. E te ariki, whakarongo mai ki te karanga a te iwi, kia tika tō mātou huarahi ki te hui tōpu i tēnei tau. Me tata mai koe ki ngā kai hautu o te hui tōpu, ko Perehitini Andrew, rātou ko Perehitini Tuarua e Tuini, me te hekere tari matua a Tara. Ko tō mātou tino pātai kia tau mai tō rangmanākitanga tapu ki runga i ngā mema katoa o te hāhi i tēnei hui. Nā reira e inoi atu ana mātou kia tau te mauri i wainganui a mātou katoa i runga i te rangi māria o te atua, te atawhai o te ariki, me te manaakitanga o te wairua tapu. Āmene.